What's up, Secondhand Talent family? It's your girl Steiner back with another episode of Secondhand Talent.
Isn't that my thing?
It is, but I've always wanted to say it.
Well, I'm so glad that you got the chance to. Yes, this is Steiner and Steiner here with not just any episode of Secondhand Talent, but our 50th episode.
50 episodes.
50 episodes, and we just want to take a brief moment to thank all of you so much, our viewers, our listeners, our friends, family, community who have been supporting us over the last year. We would not be here without you. And I felt that it would be a great use of this moment and this milestone, this 50th episode, to pay some homage to the secondhand talent of Secondhand Talent, my incredible wife, Steiner, who does so much for this show behind the scenes. And it's time that we, let people know. So, Steiner, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
How does it feel to be sitting behind the desk as opposed to, outside taking the social media shots and all that?
Usually I'm filming the social media and yelling at you guys. You have to re-say that. You have to do that again. This is what you forgot to talk about. It's fun. It's a little nerve-wracking, I gotta say. I thought I'd be a little less nervous, but I'm excited.
You fill a lot of roles, when you touched on a few of them there, from creative director.
Not by choice.
It's by choice. But creative director to social media manager to production support, like and we'll touch on all those roles, a little bit later, but you do so much for this program that doesn't get seen. And one thing that I don't think we've even talked about that I'd like to ask you is our typical first question is when you first heard the term secondhand talent, what did that mean to you? Like when I brought it up.
It's so hard to think back on what I thought then because so much has happened since.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been over a year now. And I think when you said the word secondhand talent, I was like, yes. And I knew right away because I know you and I know how important these people behind the scenes are to you. And I mean, you've been that person for so long in so many different ways. So for me, it was just a right away, like a light bulb. I was just like, yeah. And I think that that term, which we will talk about later, has changed.
Yeah, it's definitely evolved, but I see that's a perspective that we don't really get from anybody else because guests are going to hear it as a term, and you know me a lot better than
I
most
hear it as an
people.
idea.
Right. And I appreciate that. There was inspiration right away,
Yeah,
with our logo. So for those who don't know, Justine has been painting for quite a while and actually has done secondhand talent. There's our logo, Dr. Decimal,
original.
the original art piece that Justine painted. Um, Justine has been doing Ween fan art for a while, and I'm very curious because the logo kind of came right at the inception of the podcast before we had our lovely little mic here. Where did the inspiration? Well, first, how did you get into art and painting? What inspired you to, and then what inspired you to create fan art? And then finally, what led to Dr. Decibel?
All right, I'll give the quick version. Obviously, you know all those things
Well, I
because
know, but for the benefit of the
we're
art.
married. But I am Canadian, so I was here. I was kind of doing odd jobs here and there, but I had a lot of free time waiting for my green card. And I randomly fell upon, I really wanted to do embroidery. I wanted to do something with my hands. I'm a very creative person. I work with kids. That's why I have no voice right now. And I fell upon doing a paint by numbers and I immersed myself in it. So I was spending all day doing it. You know that.
Yeah, this was
I didn't stop.
for context. This was a period where um, it's a big process to go through and takes a lot of time. There's a lot of time during the day, and it was I think it was a suggestion that we came on together where it was like,
That I
hey,
yeah,
you got this this artistry that you want to externalize. What's what's the shortest path from point A to point B?
absolutely, and I didn't know that I was able to paint at the time, so I picked up a Starry Night. Paint by numbers. And I did it and I loved it. And I spent all day doing it and all night doing it. I'd stay up till like 2, 3 in the morning sitting and getting these numbers done. And I really enjoyed doing it. And from there, I just kept picking them up because I wanted to do more. And at one point, I had all these extra little tubes left of the numbers. And you actually said to me, well, why don't we just go to the dollar store, get some canvases, and you can just paint instead of picking up more and having all these extra tubes. So I did. So I picked up some canvases and I just started doing it. And I think what pushed me was that my grandfather at the time was also a painter. And he was painting all the time. And it was just something that bonded us. We lived far away. I didn't get to see him often. And all of a sudden, we had something to talk about all the time. And unfortunately, when he passed away, unfortunately, he passed away. Fortunately, he left me all of his painting stuff because he knew it was something I was getting into. So I got all of this stuff. So I didn't know what to do. I said, I have to keep painting. I have all this stuff now.
So the progression, and again,
Mhm.
and I wanted to bring up, yeah, that your Zadie, your late grandfather, is an incredible painter. We have some of his paintings in our
Yep.
home. So it didn't surprise me that I had a reason for saying, hey, let's go get some
Yeah.
canvases. We have all this extra paint lying around. Let's use it. Didn't really surprise me one bit that you took off flying with it.
I just like doing it. It's a
And
fun time.
and that's what matters the most.
So from there, that was me just painting a lot. And what turned into fan art was at the time we weren't going to see Ween a lot. So we'd be watching their shows, the live streams that people who I would can also consider secondhand talent, people in the crowd would sit with their phones and stream the entire show. And I started just doodling while watching a show some stuff that had to do with Ween. And that started to progress. And all of a sudden, I'm making tons of Ween the Ween subjected art. I was making a lot of Ween subjected art or art
Ween centric.
Ween
Ween centric. Ween, some ween centric material
Ween
there.
centric material. And I had so much, so I started taking them to shows and I started selling them. That was just a whole thing. And that was really fun. But I think what happened to the logo, at least, was you had asked me to make a logo. And that was really broad. And I was like, what do you want? Didn't know. And my original
Sound
idea, which I still stand by,
sounds like me.
was I wanted to put you as the face of the Mona Lisa. Do you remember that? You said absolutely not. I said, I want to paint the Mona Lisa with your face. And I don't know if I could have done it, ladies and gentlemen.
I
I don't know if
genuinely
I could have done it.
I genuinely don't remember that, but that I not the more I think about it now, the more I kind of want that to happen.
Hey, I'll do it. I'll do it.
All right.
Um, but then you said it's called Secondhand Talent. And that's when the spark came. Podcast, microphones, podcast, microphones, people talking. Okay, microphone, I knew I wanted to do an old style microphone. That was one thing. Then I thought about you as a comedian. I thought about performing. So I thought, wouldn't it be funny to have a microphone talking into a microphone? But then I was like, is that cannibalism for microphones? I so I thought, what would a microphone wear to perform? Like a microphone's not wearing a black shirt and jeans like most comedians wearing a black shirt and jeans.
Yeah.
The microphone is wearing a suit. This is a fancy guy. But is he wearing a tie? Is he wearing a bow tie? Like, what's he wearing? And it just kind of, I Googled like bow tie suits. I Googled tie suits. And I said, you know what? This guy's a classy guy. This guy's got his doctorate. He's wearing a, he's wearing a suit, like a proper suit. And that's what came up with. And I know your favorite color is purple. So the bow tie was purple. That was just an easy guess. And I sketched something out and I brought it to you and you went nuts.
Yeah, I remember seeing that for the first time, this little 4x4.
And that's before it was colored in. You saw it just as a pencil
Just
sketch.
it was just a pencil sketch, and I absolutely loved it. And this was at a time where, you know, we were in the really early stages of development, and we had no real equipment, so to speak. We didn't have these microphones.
We
We
were even
didn't.
in this apartment.
Yeah, we moved during the beginning of the podcast as well, and it it really you know, kickstarted something in my head. When I saw that, I was all of a sudden I had this vision of like, okay, it doesn't matter if we have all the equipment right now or all, you know, this stuff in our lives is going haywire. You know, we have each other, we have this logo, and we have this idea. And it doesn't matter what camera films me, what microphone I talk into, you
Absolutely.
know, we are the content, right?
Yeah.
So that's really what helped kickstart, you know, that
Mhm.
mental process for me. And then we just got up and running. And it's kind of wild to think about.
I mean, within weeks of that logo being made, the green card came.
Mm.
The first episode was filmed, and we left the country.
You left the country?
We went to Canada.
Oh, right. Yeah, we went to Canada.
You
That's
yelled
right.
in the
Yeah,
building.
that's right. Right. We actually, that is, I forgot about that timeline. We actually did film, right. So in celebration of getting the green card, we took a trip to go see Justine. We took,
What?
we took a trip to go see Steiner's
You've
family.
called me Justine so many times already.
Okay, well, we're gonna keep this live and unedited. So the first time we went to go see Justine's family in Montreal together, after Just got her green card, we actually filmed some episodes and a whole bunch of our early content in Montreal.
That's right.
And you know, so not only were we starting this crazy, completely new
We
project,
didn't even know where we were going with it.
we didn't know where we were going. We didn't know what we were doing, and I don't know if I disclosed this to you before we started it, but I had never ever watched or listened to a podcast episode before
Classic.
this program.
Classic Steiner.
So you know, it was just it was the type of thing that people had been telling me for a real long time. And do podcast, you got the voice for a podcast, face for radio, voice for podcast, and I thought, yeah, you know what, you know, we got on this secondhand talent idea, the logo came on, and we just dove headfirst right into it.
But I think the way in which I started filling these other roles is Steiner does not know how to do social media. And it was just pain. It pained me to see you uploading stuff.
Let
And I was like, you know what? Let me take over this.
me
You know
take
how
the
many times I
reins.
have to go back on a post and add hashtags because you just post things? I'm like, no,
No,
give it to me.
we let Steiner take the wheel, and you know, it was a huge, I mean, just outside of the fact that I don't know how to use social media, the fact that you were willing to step up and take that on while you had so much other stuff going on, it was, and to do it so well, like, so Steiner's been managing the Secondhand Talent social media since the beginning. She's always on site, always around, always documenting. Like she mentioned in the intro, always around during interviews to make sure that I'm on track, that I'm keeping my shit together. And, you know, as we've conveyed so many times on the show, the importance of those people that are behind the scenes. I mean, I think you are secondhand talent exemplified in the way that you've really driven the show from the background.
Well, I think that it's important because since our team is so small, And I'm not saying saying because we're such a small
Very
team.
small person. Yeah, we go. Yeah, I'm small.
Because we have such a small team is what I meant to say. I can't in good conscience put it all on you. And I think that I was watching that those first few months, besides the social media stuff which I took on, I saw how much work you were putting in. And when you're concerned with so many different little things, it's hard to see things big picture and as they are. So when I'm looking from next to you, I wouldn't say the outside, but when I'm standing over here and you're standing over here focusing on 18 things, I can see the 18 things as one big thing. And I can say, I know you're doing those 18 things, but here's number 19 and 20, and those things have to get done. Or you're doing 18 things, and 16 of them you're doing perfectly, but two of them
Hmm.
you're lacking on. So let me help you with those two things. You know, it's not something that I obviously meant to do, to be so involved in it. I really wanted it to be your thing and I liked seeing it as your thing, but what am I going to not support the person I love
Oh, but
and not like I want to see this as successful as possible.
it also like it genuinely is our thing
It is. It's
because
become our thing for sure.
because well, I think since the beginning with the logo because that's really what got it kick-started in my head. I've been doing stand-up for a very long time. I never had logos or promo materials like that for like I was just very low key about everything. And the idea of having like a symbol to represent this idea that and this project that we were trying to create, it really did go very far in my decision making to go forward with this.
That means a lot to hear, I gotta say.
Well, it's true,
Very
the way I
meaningful.
relate it to other people is when we started, we had a logo in each other, and then
And an idea.
and an idea, and then we kind of went on and kind of, as you alluded to, working on, it's weird because I also consider myself kind of secondhand talent on the show.
Yes, absolutely.
For the yeah, the team is just us, we really do everything end to end. And you know, I had never been involved in anything related to, the closest that I had been in podcast realm was about a little over a decade ago. I was on the radio. And kids these days. Anyway, um, the this has
Kids
been
these days.
this has been an exponential learning curve for me and for the viewers and listeners who have been following us from early on. First of all, thank you very much. Second of all, you see the progression and the quality go up a
Absolutely.
little bit, then flatline and up a little bit. It's not a perfect steady uprise, but I had no idea how to edit a video, how to edit audio, how to, run a YouTube channel, how to post an audio podcast, how to master audio. Like this has been how to work any of these microphones and the other equipment that we use. Lighting has been very tricky for me to figure out with hats and glasses. Um, it's been remarkable to to my own self just how much my skill set has grown in this sense.
Absolutely.
But I think one of the coolest parts about the overall, project that we created is that between the podcast, between Secondhand Talent, the idea, and our logo, Dr. Decibel, other artists approached us
Yeah,
and asked to model it. And you'll see on the screen, I'll pop it up right here. We had patches made by the lovely Laurel Bayleaf of Bayleaf Studios. And we had these pins right there.
oh, I'm doing this. Is it
Produced,
we're
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
have it
we're gonna
popped
have
up?
it popped up on the screen, but produced by Mife Designs. And two people, the Mife Designs, the group, but the people within there, and Laurel, people I'm huge fans of,
Absolutely.
and to have them see your art and want to turn it into patches, into pins, available now on secondhandtalent.com in special limited quantities. Um,
That's been really exciting for me.
that
Sorry to
was
interject.
so no, that's it was so hugely gratifying to see that my wife's art is getting recognized along with the project.
I felt the same way. It was really exciting. It was definitely um I have a few highlights. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I have a few highlights of
Yeah,
looking at the show.
go for it.
And one of them is just the fact that the art that I created, something I created, someone decided they wanted to make a product out of it. I think that's really cool and really exciting. And I never thought that I would be able to do something like that. So I think it's really cool. The other two highlights are very cheesy, and I'm just going to say that now.
All right. All right.
One of them is the humbleness of our guests. I think it's really beautiful to see people who do such important work feel so humbled, like, why would you want to interview me? Or like, I don't know if I have anything to say, or all that stuff. I just think it's so beautiful because to me, I could never do what they're doing, or maybe I could, but like, I've never even tried to do what they're doing. And what they're doing is so important and essential for someone like me who loves going to shows to be able to go to those shows and to
And
be able to enjoy music. And so that's such a highlight. And then the other highlight, that's the highlight that keeps on giving, is just working with you, working with my best friend. It's so fun. It's just so fun. And I have a good time with you, and we laugh and we take silly content and we just get to work on something we both love and care about. And that's just the best.
yeah, I'm gonna address that first, and then
Yeah, I wanted to ask you what your highlights were.
well, I just want to counterpoint those. I mean, working together in life in general has been awesome, but to be able to the way you externalize with art, the way I externalize with stand up, for us to be able to externalize our artistic selves together
Together.
has been a really incredible um, addition to the journey that we've been on over the
Yeah.
last several years. And it's been outstanding to and just really gratifying for me just to see how your passion and excitement for the project continues to grow as we move on. And despite when I get off schedule or off kilter or anything like that, you're there to set me back on the path.
That's what I'm here for.
And with regards to our incredible guests, first of all, thank you all so much for being on the show. You know, like Steiner said, I've dabbled in a lot of the roles in secondhand talent that we've interviewed for, but there are a lot that I don't. Everybody who we've had on the show are people who I respect and admire for their skills, their capability, their work ethic, their acumen, and overall knowledge of the industry. And it has been a real treat to interview old friends, new friends, heroes of mine, truly heroes of mine, people who I've looked up to for many, many years. People to whom I, attribute, a modicum of greatness to whatever extent, I feel like it can be acknowledged. It's really been a privilege. It's always a privilege when somebody wants to be on the show. Um, you know, up to and including yourself.
Been
Because
wanting this for far too long.
yeah, well, it's amazing because you know, like we started saying at the beginning, we shine the spotlight on the people who shine the spotlights. And one of the big highlights for me, is it's been defining the three core elements of what I want the program to convey, right? So obviously we want to highlight our guests, right? But in my mind, we want to highlight the spaces that they occupy. For every light director, front of house engineer, bouncer, accountant, whatever space it may be, for whatever guest we occupy, there are hundreds of others in those spaces around the country. It's a matter of, raising the profile, again, like I said, not just of our guests, but of the spaces that they occupy. The second is to let people know and remind people, I became a comedian, has been said on the show before, and I won't go into detail here, but I became a comedian to get into the live music scene. And I think it's incredibly important to relate down our love for what we do and the understanding that playing an instrument is not a barrier for entry to being involved in the live music scene.
Yes.
Like there are so many things that can be done that if you have a passion for live music, likely there is a space for you in the live music scene. And finally, it,
Fantastic. I love that you just said that. I think that's fantastic.
and thank you. And finally, the third point of the show, which I think is massively important, is music education and relaying the importance of that because that is how we pass down the love of what we do from generation to generation. And, you know, uh, it really is important to me as, a former teacher as well to pass down, again, just that love and that music education is so important, not just for cultural growth and opening your mind and listening to new things, but also to find out what it opens your mind to.
Mm.
And those have been that's been it's developing those 3 points over the course of the last 14 months has been incredibly gratifying.
I think that you have talked about parts of those things so much, but I've never had the chance to hear you speak of the three different elements of this program and project all together. And I think that's really awesome. And I'm really glad that that's something that you are putting out there.
It's just really important for me to convey as a message through the show that the importance of conveying our gratitude to all of those people who are working in all of these spaces so that we and you, our viewers and listeners, have a great time every time we go to a concert, just like Steiner helps us provide the best podcast experience for you every week as we go episode to episode with Secondhand Talent.
Well, it's definitely a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be able to help make this show as great as it is and to keep making it even better every week. And I take a lot of pride in being able to take in that position and be that person.
I mean, that position, that person wearing so many hats similar to myself and doing so many different things. I mean, let's not minimize it. You're our social media director, you're our marketing manager, you're our executive producer, you screen everything before it goes
I
out, you
do.
capture content. I mean, there are so many roles that we could probably have so many people do that you manage to do by yourself. And, I think that is not an exception to the rule for all of our friends who work in secondhand talent.
It's not.
It's a very much an all hands on deck mentality. We do what we can when we can. We
We're a
help out
team.
where we can. We're a team at the end of the day.
I have something to ask you, my team member, at the
Uh,
end of the day.
all right.
So I know that you asked me about what I think of, or what I thought of rather, that secondhand talent meant to me when you first brought it up. But what I would like to know, and what I would like the viewers to know and the listeners to know, is how your definition started and how it's changed since that original idea of the words secondhand talent together came to be?
So, you know, originally the how it came to be was, kind of a tongue-in-cheek poke at myself in that like I'm a secondhand comedian. I'm that guy where my name isn't going to be on the billboard in lights, but hey, if you need 15, 20, 30 minutes, call me up and I'll knock it out and I'll make people laugh, but I'm not, I never viewed myself as the first in line, first person, to be,
As a headliner?
yeah, as a headliner, but I've been in so many spaces where I've just been called on to help at various times that it, you know, and I've got experience as a ghostwriter and things like that. So I'm used to putting material out there that doesn't have my name attached to it.
So you would say something like you're a second pair of hands.
Yeah, like or like the
Interesting.
help in the background, right? And I have so many incredible friends who work in these spaces in the live music scene. And I had always felt as a comedian that I was the least hardworking person in the room. I didn't pay to get in. I didn't build the stage that I'm standing on. I didn't plug in the mic that I'm talking into. I didn't screw in the bulb for the spotlight that's shining on me. Um, I was just there to tell jokes and just kind of be there on stage. And in my career, have always given credit to those people and thank them for the hard work they put in. But consistently, as I've grown in this industry and in this space, I've seen that that is atypical. And,
It is.
coming up in this community, I'm here by the grace of, my friends and the support that they've shown me over the years. And it initially was, kind of a way in my mind to give back to the community a little bit, all of the good that had been given to me. And how it's evolved, I would say, is twofold. In theory, I think it's stayed fairly consistent. I see secondhand talent as, like we say, well, I'll say it again, the people, who shine the spotlight on the people who shine the spotlights, the people who are operating everything else to make the show happen, the other villagers in the village it takes to put on a concert, the people who you don't see on stage, their talent isn't any less. It's just often overlooked. And,
But I don't think they do it for the recognition. Would you say that?
I would say so. I would say they do it for the love of live
For the
music
love
and
of
for the
live
love of
music.
being part of it, but that doesn't mean that their work should go unappreciated,
That is so true.
And that's really more what it's about is raising the awareness and profile, like I said, of the guests, but also of the spaces that they occupy because it's not just about the guests that we have on the show. It's about everybody who worked so hard in the live music scene to, propel us forward, keep us going with live music. I would say where the podcast has really changed me is actually more in the experiential space, in the real life, in the, real life concert environment.
Interesting.
I've found since starting this show, when I get to a concert, the first thing I do is walk around the venue and thank the people who are working there. And and it's led to some pretty fun stories and experiences that we've talked about, on the podcast. And it consistently amazes me how um, how surprised some people are when you say thank you, when you show a little gratitude,
I bet.
because it's just, and I'm not saying that, the live music community is not a grateful group. Of course we are, but in the moment, that appreciation doesn't always get expressed. And I've found myself at shows now making a specific point to approach, the people who are working at the venue, the people who are on the crew, the people, in the band, the staff, taking the time to, at the very least acknowledge them, for the work that they're doing. Just, let them know like, hey, in case no one else says it, like I see you, I appreciate everything that you're doing. And um it really has it really has made my live music experience more enjoyable, I would say,
That's fantastic.
because I feel far more connected
To all the
to
different components.
the experience as
Mm,
opposed to just the music that I'm going there to see. So I really have taken on a new appreciation for, the full concert experience, and I would say that's probably the biggest tangible impact that the program has made for me.
that's awesome. So I don't know if you know this, but now that you've been on the show, you're part of the Secondhand Talent family. And so I want to know what's next for you? What's next for your program? What's next for what's coming up? What do we got coming up here on Secondhand Talent, the podcast?
So, so glad you asked. There's a lot of exciting things going on. At the time of this taping, we're right around the middle-ish of season 3, that has been going fantastic.
It's awesome.
Thank you to all of the guests who have been on the show. I got a little list here because my memory's bad of our upcoming guests, but starting next week, we've got wonderful artist Mark Serlo. We have my buddy Mello from Elite Mind Management. We've got Blake Shader, the owner and operator of the Get Down in Portland,
Ooh.
Oregon. We have Maor Applebaum, multi-platinum selling and Grammy nominated and Juno Award winning record masterer.
Wow.
I did not know all of what went into record mastering. It was an incredible interview, and I absolutely cannot wait for that to air. Then we've got all the wonderful guys in the Michigan-based band Stormy Cromer. So our
Ooh.
first full band interview
That's exciting.
for a band that's got all their secondhand talent built in. We've got my friend Steezy from Elevated Presence. We have the guys behind Whippersnap Fest, which takes place every year in February in Florida. We've got my buddy Chris Howland, the CHO, the Chief Heady Officer of Heady Wax Fiends, and the Heady Wax Fiends Record Club
Ooh, love that club.
is gonna be making an appearance on the show, and we have a few more guests that we can't quite announce right now, but
They're really good.
the rest of the season is full of banger interviews. I'm incredibly proud of w- where we've come from and getting to where we are now, and even saying those names and reading them out, and knowing that those episodes are forthcoming, it just it is really precious to me that I can say these things, and that, and knowing that they're coming up. And it's pretty cool for what's coming up on the podcast, I'd say.
Absolutely. I want to just say before we continue on what's coming up for Secondhand Talent, everyone has been thanked, but thank you. Thank you for doing what you do. But I want to get into what's coming up for you and for Secondhand Talent as a project, not necessarily just the podcast, because I think we got some fun stuff coming.
Yeah, so yeah, we do, and again, even though I hear them all the time, thank you so much as always for the kind words. It means the world, and I really, couldn't have a better partner. Um, we have something really, really freaking cool to announce in July. I Secondhand Talent, it became this podcast, and I always had an idea that we could do something more with it, right? That it could expand to beyond just a podcast. And I didn't know how that would manifest. And I got in touch with the incredible guys in Bodhicitta, based out of Wisconsin, based out of Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Incredible prog funk fusion band. Really, really cool stuff.
Check out their music.
Check out their music. And if you're going to be at the Phish shows in July at Alpine Valley, come check them out. They're going to be playing 4 sets at the Alpine Valley Resort, and I will be there to conduct interviews, to be filming the experience with a couple of friends of mine. And we're gonna be making a movie. We're making a fucking movie.
We're doing it.
We're gonna make a little documentary about a local band playing at the best known venue in their state in the shadow of a parallel residency of one of the greatest jam bands ever. It's just a beautiful encapsulation of, one of those bands, like so many of the guests we've had on the show, like Sickard Hollow, Joe Marson, Stormy Cromer, you know, Munyon, all of these bands that do it all themselves. Bodhicitta is one of those bands, and we've been talking back and forth, and kind of coming up with this idea and forming how it's going to go, and we're incredibly excited that this is going to take place. So if you're going to be at the Phish shows, if you're going to be around for that weekend, come stop by. We're going to post up the schedule of shows later today. We'll have maybe an image right here. Try to do that. And
It's going to be great.
it's going to be a real fun time. Come say hi. And hey, if you're at the show, you might see footage of yourself in the movie. So there's a real cool opportunity for that. We're going to have some super limited exclusive merch available. Thanks to our partner, Tenacious Toys, we're going to be giving away some of these danger dogs, including some that have been customized by Steiner herself. And it is just going to be an incredible time. And hey, also, if you want to be on the show, hit us up.
Hit us up.
Hit us up.
Hit us up.
Secondhand Talent at gmail.com. DM us on Instagram, at Secondhand Talent.
Secondhand _talent.
If you'd like to be on the show, links are in the description. You could go to secondhandtalent.com and contact us through the website. We'd love to have you on.
We want you here. You have such good things to say. We know.
And even if you don't, we know you do. And, we have no exclusions. If you are in the live music scene, if you love live music, hit us up. Come be on the show. Come be a part of the Secondhand Talent family. It's growing every day, and it's kind of hard to say it, but we're on the precipice of, opening up production for season 4.
Wow. Season 4, where Steiner has short hair the entire time.
The entire season.
Stay tuned for next week when his hair gets long again.
Yeah, we're not going to go into the gory details of how that all happened, but check Instagram for Steiner's reaction.
Also, like and subscribe to this podcast.
Yeah, like and subscribe. Tell your friends.
Tell
Why
your
not?
family.
And
tell your neighbor.
Thank you, massive, massive thank you to Benny from Tenacious Toys.
Thank you, Benny.
We appreciate you so much for the lovely table decorations and all the support you've given us over the last year. Thanks again to Laurel from Bayleaf Studios. Thank you to Mife Designs. And thank you to all of our guests, past, present, and future, who are continuing to contribute to this growing community. And last but not least, thank you again, Steiner, for steering this ship and making sure it goes forward and doesn't sink.
Thank you for being on the ship that I'm steering.
My absolute pleasure. We will see y'all for next Wednesday. We will see.
Wait, can I do it? Can I do it?
Yeah, go ahead.
For all of us at Secondhand Talent, see you next week, and stay groovy.
This is Steiner from Secondhand Talent here with Steiner. We've got another episode coming up next Wednesday. Check it out.